I'm Will Hartley. I'm the class of '89. I'm not the class. I'm a member of the class of 1989. Because I'm a member of the class of '89, it means I need to wear my grandfather shades. We're having our 30th reunion, which is kind of mind-boggling to all of us going through this process. And I think the last time I was on this stage was playing saxophone with Tim Price's jazz band in 1989. Yeah, so let's give a shout out to Tim Price. I know he's on sabbatical. He is one hip cat. We're going to shift gears a little bit here because we're not going to talk about high tech. We're going to talk about the lowest tech, the oldest tech that our planet is familiar with. I'm here to introduce Minh from the class of '89. He's our distinguished alumnus. And just looking down at him, I remember the first time I ever can recall seeing Minh at UHS, and it was at a cross-country meet. Any cross-country athletes here? Okay, good. So Minh is OG. He can tell you all the stories for the old school track adventures that they got into. But my just memory of this guy is he's flying up West Pacific in the Presidio, and he's just picking off his opponents and just like cranking up the hill. And I remember just thinking, and I was like 14 or whatever you are as a freshman, 15, and I was just like, this guy is so calm. He's like determined, but he has this look in his eyes, this determination that really caught me, and I still think about it to this day, 34 years later. Minh attended Columbia after graduating from UHS. He studied Asian American literature, political science, went on to receive his master's degree in economic development from Columbia School of International and Public Affairs. And then he kind of switched gears. So I bumped into Minh at a farmer's market 14 years ago. Do you remember that in Berkeley? Yeah. And he was just starting Hodo soy, and he and his wife were doing it. They were selling their products one by one to customers as they came by this amazing farmer's market. And he still had that same sort of look in his eyes. I was like, okay, I see, this guy's onto something else. I've been in the food industry my entire career. I'm currently the founder and president of Slingshot Foods. It's a plug, you gotta do that. This is all part of the like networking thing, talk about your thing. And so I've been in the food industry my whole life, but I was just impressed that this guy who was kind of a recovering investment banker was starting small. And he was learning firsthand what his customers liked, and he was talking to them about it, and one by one he was building this incredible brand. He wasn't trying to shortcut. He wasn't trying to go faster than he should. He was building these really deep roots in San Francisco, and those roots still exist today, and they're, if anything, more resilient and stronger than ever. I just want to talk about Hodo for a second from my perspective. What Minh has built, it's incredible. By any measure, it's a national brand with distribution in retailers like Costco, Safeway, Whole Foods, of course, good old farmers markets too, where he started. And Hodo makes tofu and yuba that are organic, non-GMO. They use American farmed soy only. And Hodo is the star ingredient in Chipotle's sofritas. Have you guys heard of Chipotle? Yeah. Something about burritos. He has 180 dedicated employees working at his beautiful custom-built factory in Emeryville. It's humming 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. They are cranking over there. Stepping back and beyond just thinking about soy and what Minh is actually doing here in a big picture, he's helping lead a plant-based movement that's reducing the carbon footprint of the food industry. I don't know if you know this, but soy is one of the most sustainable protein sources available. And it's very clear reducing red meat consumption is one of the best and easiest ways you can directly make an impact on global warming. As Michelin-starred chefs around the country will attest to, there are no flavor trade-offs when you feature Hodo in your dishes. Please join me in welcoming Minh, class of 1989.
Seriously, thank you for having me here. It is truly an honor, and I want to learn more about AI because we want to make tofu AI based. I mean, it's totally possible, but I know that besides Will, who nominated me, there are tons of people in my class who are super deserving of this award. So, at first I was kind of reluctant to accept it because it means I have to kind of dress up and give a speech. And I really don't know what to say to you guys. That's the other thing. You know, it's like I got three groups. I got the alums, I got the students, I got the faculty that I have to impress. So I'm like, too much pressure. But I decided to do it because I know it's Friday and I got to say something funny. And I'm not going to give you a graduation speech because you're going to get that. Some of you sooner than others, but you're going to get that. So, yeah. And you are an accomplished bunch here, okay? You're at UHS, let's face that. So what I've decided to do for my 10 minutes up here is to take the easy way out, which is to talk about myself and my journey and what got me on this stage today. So, and by talking about myself, I can embellish as much as I want. So here's what I will share with you is the lessons I learned along the way of growing up. It won't take very long. And growing up, it's still something that I'm doing today, and I'm doing it every day, okay? That's page 1. Still got it, I still got it. All right. Now I need you to imagine something. Imagine a photo that I couldn't find, okay? I wish I had, but I couldn't find it. But there's a photo of me when I first came to the United States in 1981, the summer of 1981. This photo was me and my family at Golden Gate Bridge, the iconic Golden Gate Bridge. I'm wearing plaid bell bottoms, okay? Big collar shirts. I looked miserable, okay? I had a Beatles haircut, not a cool one like this one. The clothes came from Goodwill, and back then you buy clothes at Goodwill by the pound, okay? 50 cents a pound. So I bought a lot of clothes at Goodwill back then as an immigrant. But I was miserable because I was cold. Not because I wasn't hip looking, because I was cold, because the coldest winter is the summer spent in San Francisco, right? I didn't know that. So I'm standing there, somebody's taking a picture, and I'm like, can you hurry this up because I'm freezing? Well, things changed quickly after that because moving to San Francisco, I quickly learned that I need to wear layers. So I ditched the 70s look and I bundled up. But what didn't change was I was still that semi-unhappy kid for the first couple of years in the United States. Let me tell you why. So I grew up in Vietnam, okay? The 3 years prior to leaving and being a refugee and coming to the United States, I didn't have school. Imagine if you're 9 years old, 10 years old, and you didn't have to go to school. Pretty cool, huh? No internet. The only thing you could do was play outside. Wait, you don't remember that. That's okay. Imagine if you can. I'm on the streets, I'm playing soccer, I'm swimming in the ponds, I'm fishing, I'm just hanging out with my friends. That was my life before coming here. I speak Vietnamese because I grew up there. My family is ethnic Chinese, so I spoke 3 dialects of Chinese. So when I came here, none of that was possible, right? I didn't speak any English. So I'm thinking, what is so cool about the United States? I have to learn a new language, a very confusing one, in fact, English. So the first few years, I didn't like it here. But my parents and all the people that got me here thought I was really lucky, right? This is a democracy, a meritocracy. It's a place where, you know, if you try really hard, you're gonna succeed. My American sponsors thought we were lucky, right? My teachers thought I was lucky. But I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. Don't get me wrong, they're all correct in retrospect. But imagine an 11-year-old kid. Why would that be lucky when you come here and you didn't know anything? It's a new landscape, a new culture. You have to learn a language you already spoke 4. There's nothing cool about it, okay? So it was really hard for me to see it that way back then. You would be too. Imagine if you were in another country, you just escaped the United States because of some war or some, other things, and then you have to go to a foreign country and you have to learn that language. And your parents actually were very successful here, but in that foreign country, they really have to restart. So it's a tough time. But things change. So I was in the 5th grade when I first came. For my first year, I don't remember much. I just remember fighting bullies, and I was good at fighting because I fought all the time in Vietnam, so that wasn't an issue. The harder issue was I had to figure out how to learn English, and that was really hard. I'm still learning English today, but it was way harder back then. I was really shy. I'm not this cool speaker today, okay? I can barely talk back then. But one thing I got going was I was curious. So imagine 5th grade, all I did was raising my hand and go, I don't understand. That was all I did. Every time the teacher said something, I was like, Mrs. Kelly, I don't understand. So at one point she said, let me give you a translator. So she teamed me up with a really cute 5th grader named Daisy Lamb. I had a massive crush on her, but I was not cool enough for her. So she did not translate for me at all. I know, look at you. They're so bummed. They're like, poor Minh. Yes, it was. That was 5th grade, right? Daisy Lamb went on and got married to one of her classmates in 5th grade, kind of like Jamie and your thing, and it's very cool now. But I still remember having a massive crush on Daisy Lamb. This is like storytelling, but it's going somewhere. So that was 5th grade, right? And then 6th grade came along, year 2. And I had to go to a different school, middle school. You guys remember middle school? Some of you still might. It's not a cool place. But I went to Visitation Valley Middle School, which is literally like diagonally the opposite side of where you are today. That's where I lived, so that's where I went to school. And I was in an ESL class. For those of you who do not know, ESL means English as a second language. It's for kids who don't speak English well, and they need supplementary help. So I was in an ESL class, and I was lucky, and here's why. And this is where the true story began. And the word I want you to remember, it's called expectations, okay? Here's why it's important. Because it was there that something happened. The first thing, in looking back, that happened was my parents. Why did they bring me here? For a long time, I didn't know. But now I know because I'm a parent, and I recognize it much better. It's about expectations. They were intellectuals. They grew up as teachers in Vietnam. And they came here because they expected this place to have opportunities. They expected this place to have the opportunities, and they expected me to take on these opportunities and succeed. At that age, no matter how your parents articulate expectations or setting the bars, you just don't get it, and I didn't. But they had very high expectations, and education was a big part of that expectations. You gotta go to school, you gotta do well, and they couldn't support me on how to do well, but they know I have to go to school. So they had very high expectations. The how part happened in 6th grade. So I'm gonna tell you another story, and it requires your imagination. I'm going way over, it's like page, 2.5 or something. But you guys are cool, right? Yep. All right. Thank you, Andrew. He's like the grown-up going, yeah, keep going. So what happened in 6th grade was, I was in an ESL class, and one day, my teacher, Mrs. Curtis, said, Minh, what are you doing this summer? And I was like, I don't know. She said, there's this woman, she's coming to the gifted class, I'm in the ESL, to talk about this program. I think you're gonna benefit from going to some summer school. So she said, why don't you go to Mrs. Blount's gifted class, and listen to this woman talk about this program. So I went. And this is where expectation happens again. I went to that class, and I was the only kid that was not in the gifted class. There were no extra chair in that class, so I'm on the floor in front, okay? Sorry, Mariana, speaker, yes. And there's this woman, this blonde woman named Lois Lufbro, who went there to talk about this program called Summer Bridge. So I'm sitting there looking up at her. She's very intimidating. She's blonde, she's tall, and she spoke really fast. And she's super intense. Nothing's changed today, Lois. You're still tall, blonde, and intense. And she said a lot of things about Summer Bridge that I had no idea what she said. She said a lot of stuff about Yosemite, about homework, about lots of young kids, and this amazing school called University High. And I looked at her, and this is where expectation happens. She looked at me, and she thought, this is a kid who's like really looking at me. He's intent, kind of like the way Will described my eyes. He thinks it's like intensity and acknowledgement, but I'm just like, oh my God, you're speaking so fast. I'm trying to understand everything you're trying to say. But it doesn't matter, because she expected that I knew everything she said, and I'm totally into what she said. So when I submitted my application, which is probably not written very well, she took me as a student. And so I ended up going to Summer Bridge. And it was there that I realized the bar is so high. Summer Bridge, the expectations there were amazing. Okay? Basically, they said, we don't care where you come from. Because Summer Bridge at that time recruited from students in public school all over the city. They didn't care about your ethnic background. They want ethnic diversity. They didn't care about your economic background, whether you're rich or poor, they didn't care. Okay? They didn't care about your academic background. Whether you were smart and a straight A student or a C student, they didn't care. They just want a group of kids coming together, being taught by high school and college students to succeed. And they insist that this group of students will have the opportunity to succeed. And that was the environment that was thrown in. I'll give you some funny examples of that. Homeworks, absolutely. I took 2 buses. I know Jamie took the one California. I had to take 2, one from Viz Valley, downtown, and then 3 Jackson up here. So, but I loved coming to Summer Bridge, despite the homework, because the teachers were cool. Yosemite was amazing when I finally found out what it was. It's like a whole week in the wilderness. And more importantly, what Summer Bridge taught me was there's a bar up here, the expectations of success is here, right? And they're gonna support me to get there. And that's what I continue to take home today. It's the expectations are equally important. You guys have a lot of expectations being here at University High School, okay? An example of expectations, Lois, as part of a field trip at Summer Bridge, get all the students on a field trip to go into fancy shops. And she said, you have to go in there, you have to try on some clothes, and you have to figure out how much to pay for it. Like imagine if you're working in a shop downtown, like a boutique shop, some kids go in, but you have to rate. She's trying to tell me I have the right to go in just like everyone else. I don't have to be rich. I have the right to learn and to understand. Summer Bridge taught me some very important things, even though for some of you it might be very trivial. How to look somebody in the eye, how to shake hand, how to put together a kick-ass resume. That is Summer Bridge. A lot of life skill, a lot of academic skills, and take no prisoner high expectations. So Summer Bridge really prepared me for University High School, which I eventually ended up, and that's the other reason I'm here, as an alum. So as a student here, academically, it wasn't that bad because Summer Bridge prepared me for that. But culturally, it was really hard, right? Because for the first time, I'm exposed to wealth, exceptional wealth. But it was also very good because between my curiosity, between expectations, I learned how to navigate and manage that. At university, I'll tell you one funny story about expectations and how I look at university and the university experience. You know, I had a teacher here. Her name is Helen Rogers. Baseball, yay! Are you coming in or going out? Going out. Good luck. Coming in, yay. So Helen Rogers is one of the best math teachers at University High School. Okay. And rumor had it that she can read things backward. Like if I have my speech here and she stands there, she can totally read it faster than me. But she's exceptionally smart. But one day, she said to me, after my class was right after lunch, and she said to me, she said, Min, you certainly can use some deodorant. Has nothing to do with math, okay? Why? Because I just came from playing basketball at lunch, and I probably reeked. But I knew nothing about deodorant. You see? So when she said that to me, my classmates laughed. Now, I could be totally insulted because she could be culturally insensitive. I could read it in so many ways. But because I didn't know what it was, I had to ask my classmates afterward, what the fuck is deodorant, right? And then they told me, and I was like, you put that under your armpit? But it's a cultural thing. Like, look, that was only like my 4th year in the United States, and I'm a teenage dude. Like, you don't know that stuff. Like, I don't know how you guys learn about deodorant. It was not in sex ed, okay? But that's how I learned about it. But I chose to look at that experience as one where it's a cultural experience, you know, for both of us, for her and for me. But that's kind of part of the expectations at university is I come in, I feel very easy and free to talk about this, and the school engaged in that. And I hope it still does today, because that's my expectation of this institution called University High School. Again, expectations. The third and final thing about expectation, Will and his introduction. Again, he's setting the bar up here for my food company, okay? It's a food company. It makes delicious tofu. How many of you guys eat tofu? Yeah, I know, young people. Awesome. Eat a lot of tofu. Don't eat it just because it's gonna save the planet. It helps. Eat it because it's delicious. Okay? We make tasty stuff. That's why you should eat it. Same with Will's company, it's Slingshot. Rice. Yeah, rice. A plug. Okay? But in any case, Will sees us, sees Hodo at this transformative, amazing brand. And that's great. It's an expectation. It's the public's expectation of this brand. What I can say to you, and I'll conclude with this, is that everyone in my life, and I love the fact that they set very high expectations for me. It started with my parents. They didn't know how to support these expectations, but they set them very high. Just like your parents set very high expectations for you, the school here sets very high expectations for you. Summerbridge sets very high expectations for me. University did that. My colleagues did that. Will does that. I don't have to meet them. I don't. Because why? What I care about is the journey to meeting these expectations. What that journey looks like. Who is along the way? Who's helping me? Because why? Because it's really about the journey of meeting the expectations that's important. So as you have expectations from outsiders, from your parents, this is where the graduation speech comes in, okay? It's okay to know where they are, but pick your own journey of getting there. Because you don't have to be an investment banker, you know, you can change all the time. You can have your own expectations, and that's the most important thing. You're gonna be happier when you meet your own expectations. So, thank you for having me here.